Springfield's Talk 1041. Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Thursday. My name is Nick Reed. Broadcasting live from in studio. Now, tomorrow's Friday, which means Friday Road Show, which means we will be broadcasting live out at Scramblers. And then we're going to have a happy hour at Vineyard Market. That is in Ozark. Our good friends there. And 4 to 6 is the time frame. It is come and go as you please. I think tomorrow, weather-wise, should be perfect. And I know, well, of course, we'll get weather here in just a moment with Sarah Myers. The last I saw, I mean, there was a chance, maybe, potentially in the afternoon we would see something. But other than that, it doesn't look like anything is too threatening. And so that'll make for some fantastic patio weather, as it oftentimes does for us when we are doing our Friday Road Show out there. And if you've not been to one, it's just a very casual hangout. You can get some dinner if you want. You can have some drinks if you want. You can smoke a cigar if you want. Of course, they have a completely separate with state-of-the-art air filtration system if you want to sit inside. And they've got the nice overstuffed leather couches, and you can rent your own little locker there if you'd like to, or you can, again, sit outside as well, which is where we'll be for the most part. Again, weather permitting. So that's something that we do have going tomorrow. We'll have to see if Christy Fulnecki will be able to join us. She will be with us today in the 7 a.m. hour. We will have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour as well. And we've got a lot of great audio. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm telling you, Marco Rubio never does not hit a home run. And yesterday we played some audio in which he sat before the Senate answering questions, and it really was a spectrum. On one end, you had Democrats, and it's not picking on women, because Republican conservative women aren't like this. But some of the dumbest stuff and displays of complete and total, it isn't just ignorance, it's ignorance compounded with stupidity, come from female Democrats. I mean, male Democrats, they certainly have their place on the stage, but they are constantly outdone by the females. And the House yesterday, Marco Rubio called to testify to... They masqueraded as a time to ask him questions, which of course is not what occurs. And once again, the Democrat women proved to be the most ignorant, compounded by stupidity, human beings that are probably in existence, let alone within the U.S. Capitol. And Marco Rubio, on the other hand, just knocks it out of the ballpark absolutely every single time, and effortlessly. I mean, it is so natural. And I got to tell you, it's a thing to watch, and we'll have some of that audio coming up for you. I was thinking earlier this morning that I don't know that there is any demographic in which there is such a huge gap in intelligence and knowledge than there is within the demographic of women. And by that I mean the gap between conservative women and liberal women in terms of intelligence and presentation, overall knowledge, ability to have a civil conversation as opposed to acting like a 5-year-old entitled child is greater between the female liberal versus the female conservative versus the gap between any other demographic on the left or right. So obviously men on the left, men on the right, huge gap. African Americans on the left versus the right, LGBTQ people on the left versus the right. There's obviously a significant gap there in terms of intelligence and presentation. But I don't think there's anything that reaches the cavernous mass of space, or volume rather, of space, that there is between a conservative woman and a liberal woman when it comes to intelligence, the ability to have a conversation, civility. And much of that, of course, was on display yesterday and the day before in some of these hearings. We've got weather coming up in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 83. Tonight, a slight chance for showers in the early evening and then partly sunny with a low, or partly sunny, partly cloudy with a low around 66.
Well, it's the same, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Well, but see, I've always thought it was the same because if it's partly cloudy, then what's the other part?
I don't know. Partly moony. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean,
I
if
don't know what that's what it has for the evening hours.
Oh, clear, I guess it would be.
I guess
Partly
so.
clear, I guess, at night. Oh, I see what you're saying now. I was
Yes.
half listening.
That's okay.
Now I'm caught up.
That's okay. Well, clearly the weather person that wrote this did not do a good job today.
Makes me sick.
I know.
Sort of meteorology, all those meteorology loans, student loans, for what?
For this.
For this.
I was the one who wrote this, by the way.
That would have been helpful information before I started ripping into
That's okay.
the anonymous person in my head.
Appreciate you sticking up for me, though. For Friday, hey, you were asking for happy hour.
Yeah.
The weather itself, we've got a very isolated chance for showers. Cool. It's like 10 to 20%.
We're good.
Yeah, so we are perfectly fine. Otherwise, it'll be mostly sunny with a high near 84. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 85.
Happy Hour Vineyard Market tomorrow, 4 to 6. We are also pretty much as secured as we can be on the announcement, I suppose, of the next Great Escape, which will be the end, around the end of next April. Really, the only thing that needs to occur at this point is approval on our end from our corporate people, which sometimes is kind of like pulling teeth, but it always happens. It's just oftentimes a slow process, sort of like government. But once that's done, then we will be ready to officially roll out the announcement. It'll probably be a couple of weeks because Cam is, I believe, out of the country for the next couple of weeks with another group. And so we want to, well, obviously just have her here for the announcement, but at the same time, have her in the office when you all start calling to make your deposits. And I can, based off of what we almost assuredly will have completely signed and sealed and delivered within the next couple of weeks, let you know that, again, we're looking around the end of April. The deadline for full payment will be sometime in November, and a $250 deposit is, which I think is pretty standard, is what will be required in order to secure your spot. And the costs are going to be around the same that they've been in the past, which, there's a bit of a window there that has occurred, some a little more expensive than others, but it's right in there in line with some of the pricing that we've had in the past. And so that just gives you sort of an idea if you need to get that planning underway, even mentally or emotionally. But that announcement will be coming soon, so continue to listen for that. The House passed in a 215 to 208 vote a resolution to end U.S. involvement in Iran conflict. This will go to the Senate. If it passes there, it goes to Trump, and guessing he'll veto it. Now, of course, they could get 2/3 of a vote to override, which won't happen. But even at that, constitutionally, I believe the side would be on the White House to say, we're going to do it anyway. Your power is to defund it. If you don't want us to, just stop funding it. That's where your power lies, and that is constitutionally true. We've had this conversation, don't want to delve too deep into it, but as the Constitution was being written, the whole Congress has the power to declare war initially was written that Congress had the power to execute war. I forget if the word was execute or if it was carry out war, but it was the execution of the war. And the debate was over the fact that allowing the same branch of government that would execute a war to also have the power to raise money for it and fund it was too dangerous, that those powers had to be separated. And you had to have one branch that had the power to fund it, and then another branch the power to actually execute and carry out the war. And it was at that point that they decided to change the wording from the execution of war to Congress has the power to declare war. And that was done because of the way that, particularly with trade, international relations worked at the time, and how certain countries would deal into agreements with other countries, and oftentimes there were components that involved if you're at war, or if you're at war with another country or with an ally, that could alter the course of the landscape. And so that was why that component was put in there. And at the time, I think it was Jefferson there was one of the larger name founders had argued that that wasn't even necessary because that environment of how countries dealt with one another when it came to war was almost becoming a bygone era, and so some felt that wasn't even needed in and of itself. But this idea that the founders put in there, Congress has a right to declare war with the intent that meant Congress was in charge of deciding when we enter into military action against another country, is not only inaccurate, it's the opposite of the truth. And this is why every presidency, every attorney general, Republican or Democrat, since the War Powers Resolution went into effect, have said, yeah, this thing is not constitutional. I mean, listen, we'll give you guys updates and everything. And Marco Rubio has said as much. Listen, we want you guys to know what's going on. We're going to inform you. We'll comply with what the purpose of this War Powers Act is because we think it's important for members of Congress to be in the loop on this thing. But everyone acknowledges that this thing is not constitutional. And that is based off of the founding. That's based off of the rewriting during the writing of the Constitution and Congress declaring war, the intent. So I believe that even if you did have this pass Trump, the Senate, Trump vetoes it, then you had 2/3 to override the veto, that still it would not constitutionally hold up because the power, and this was again the argument from the founders, that the power Congress has, if they are just adamantly against the execution of a war, is to cut off funding for it. Logistically, also, you have to ask yourself, and I don't think this is partisan, how would that even work? Because what does that mean? So let's say, for example, I mean, we have assets in the area. And let's say that our military assets pulled back to a pre-Iran war era. And then Iran starts attacking our bases throughout the pre-Iran war era, the bases that were already there, and start attacking them and killing off U.S. So are we allowed to retaliate? Because you could easily argue no, because we said that you can't. We have, as Congress, passed a law and override the president's veto on it, saying that we cannot be at war with Iran. So while our troops are being bombarded with missiles and whatever other sort of military action, we got to wait for Congress to sit around and vote to say, oh, okay, now it's okay. By the way, this is part of the reason that the founders recognized it was just logistically the idea of Congress making those decisions would be a nightmare. It would give such an advantage to our opposition while Congress sat around, debated and voted. And, here's this. Okay, now we got to send it over to the Senate. And then the Senate has their version. And then it goes to conference. And then if it doesn't make it out of conference, you got to go back and forth. In the meantime, just pounding away at the U.S. while the U.S. says, well, we can't do anything because there hasn't been a declaration of war. And that is synonymous with execution of war. So just logistically, the tying of our hands behind our back, the green light to our enemies to have a massive head start window of attacking the United States, even domestically. We got to wait till Congress gets together, gets in their session, votes on it. It's not in line with reality. And a lot of this is symbolism. A lot of it is the recognition and the knowledge that it isn't going to have any sort of real impact. So it is a form of virtue signaling. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. The Trump administration has ended a policy that began under the Biden administration in which the federal government began threatening to take away funding from hospitals. This was a rule under the Biden administration. When making determinations regarding organ transplants, race was not considered in the context of equity. So in other words, if you had a couple of you got some 8-year-old girl who needed a new heart in order to live, or a 12-year-old, whatever, and then you got some street vagrant that has on drugs and has abused his body for years and virtually lives in the emergency room, also needs the same organ. Under the Biden administration, if the vagrant was a black guy and the girl was a white guy, guess who wins? This is the sick, twisted, dystopian society that the Biden administration was moving us towards. And in that area, successfully did so. Well, the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services ended that disturbing policy. CMS published the final rule Monday governing the increasing organ transplant access model, a mandatory 6-year program that ostensibly sought to increase access to kidney transplants for patients with end-stage renal disease. However, the Biden rule, which had taken effect back in July of 2025, also required hospitals to consider race, ethnicity, and equity in making the decisions allocating organs instead of strictly medical reasons. The rule came in response to public comment made by American First Legal, the AFL, and others arguing that transplant allocation decisions should remain grounded in objective medical criteria, which I know is crazy, science and medicine, and the fact that it wasn't that way because of a rule put into place by the Biden administration, but a little bit of sanity back. And these are the frightening things that oftentimes occur that the world doesn't know about, the country doesn't know about, until they're told that their loved one has been denied a life-saving organ transplant because they're the wrong color. Can you imagine learning that? Now, the Biden administration said it was all voluntary, but if the hospitals did not comply based off their metrics, they would start taking money away from them. So, of course, it wasn't voluntary. But how sick is that? What sort of horrible human being? Again, this is a concentration camp stuff where you just play with people's lives based off of completely arbitrary characteristics. Deciding who lives and who dies, not based off of medical decisions, but instead, what color are they? This is the sick world that the Democrat Party has envisioned for this country, this current Democrat Party. Not the Democrat Party of 30, 40 years ago, but what it has become and what it is that piece by piece, even when we don't realize it, they implement. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, the First Alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 83. Tonight, a chance for scattered showers in the early evening and then partly cloudy with a low around 66. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 84. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 85.
It was a couple of months ago, I guess at this point, that according to the indictment, unsealed indictment against Southern Poverty Law Center, that instead of being an organization that raised dollars in order to try to, through exposure, eliminate the effectiveness and existence of so-called hate groups, turns out that they actually have been funding them and paying people to recruit others to join, that they are responsible for their existence. And listen, essentially this is how the model works. You make money off a problem, and if the problem starts to go away, then you have to make more of the problem. I mean, this is their money-making model. By all accounts, whether it was cynical or not, the birthing of the Southern Poverty Law Center was, in terms of their mission, was a positive one. It was in response to the Klan burning down a black church, and we got to stop this. Well, the problem that they had was increasingly we became a culture that wasn't into that sort of thing any longer. Overall, yeah, you're always going to find a racist, just like you're always going to find a murderer and a child molester and a rapist. But that doesn't make when you have a number of child molesters, it doesn't make the entire country a country of child molesters. Having a handful of racists does not mean the entire country is a racist country. And while we at one point may have been over time, and I was pretty fortunate to grow up in an era where, as kids, none of that stuff mattered to us. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, most kids, it doesn't matter. That stuff is instilled in them. And this is unfortunately what's happening in the public schools with DEI, and it's the installation of racism. But that aside, the Southern Poverty Law Center found that their money-making machine was running out of things to raise money off of, so they had to create more of those things. Which is pretty awful. It's like going around, breaking into people's homes and murdering families so that you can start up a personal home security company. And then taking that money from people, and if suddenly you find that home break-ins are beginning to wane a bit, and so people are like, well, I don't know that I really need this service any longer, you pay people to go break into people's homes and murder families. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center, according to the indictment and all the evidence, has been doing for years. There are new details that have come out that, believe it or not, appear to make it even worse than we thought. Including the fact that there were a number of people who were in the Klan that wanted to leave because they felt that the Klan was potentially dangerous, and the Southern Poverty Law Center paid them to not leave and instead to stay in the networks. They would also pay for the wood and gasoline so that they could create crosses to burn. See, the Southern Poverty Law Center, their cover for all of these allegations is we were just there to, get someone on the inside and observe so we could expose these people. That is not what was going on, according to the indictment. The new filings or allegations that the Southern Poverty Law Center used funds to pay, specifically in this instance, to Klan members who, quote, feared for their safety from other Klan members and wanted out of the movement, but they were paid by the Southern Poverty Law Center to stay in the movement. Per the superseding indictment, an individual identified as F32 had seen media coverage about how the Southern Poverty Law Center had previously helped an individual leave an extremist organization. This is so perfect. So the Southern Poverty Law Center, with the assistance of the media, of course, does a report on just how great an organization the Southern Poverty Law Center is and how it's dismantling these hate groups. And here's a story about how they helped someone escape. So what happens is you have a member of the Klan who's a little worried, doesn't know how to get out. They're afraid that if I get out, they're going to come after me. They're coming after my family. They see this report and they have this sense of hope. And so they pick up the phone and call the Poverty Law Center and say, hey, I saw this news report about how you help people get out. I want out. Rather than fulfill the request, the DOJ alleges that a Southern Poverty Law Center employee encouraged F-31 and F-32 to stay in the movement and offered to pay them a $1,200 a month salary as well as pay for expenses as incurred. After being financially backed by the Southern Poverty Law Center to do so, the two unnamed Klan members agreed to remain in the movement according to the indictment. It was at that point that the Southern Poverty Law Center employee allegedly provided an unidentified bank with documentation falsely claiming that subject F-32 was a Rare Books employee and reportedly materially false representation. The DOJ claim resulted in F-32 being given a Rare Books employee pay card. The agency further contended that an SPLC employee subsequently instructed F-31 and F-32 to tell anyone who, quote, asked where the money came from that they worked for Rare Books and that their job was to help college students research and write essays. So in other words, they were creating cover for why they were paying these people to stay in the Klan. The indictment notes neither of the two individuals ever researched or wrote any essays for any students, any college, or otherwise. Per the DOJ, while the Southern Poverty Law Center asserted that the alleged payment scheme was for the unnamed Klan members' safety, such methods resulted in the two individuals being put in the type of dangerous situations that F-32 specifically sought Southern Poverty Law Center's help to get away from. Boy, aren't they a classy group of people? What's more is that F-31 and 32 allegedly used donors' money to attend extremist rallies in multiple states. The DOJ also noted that the SPLC's alleged financial activities led to F-31 rising from merely a group member to a leadership role within an extremist group. It was in this new post in which the individual purportedly recruited new members using Southern Poverty Law Center money. Meanwhile, F-32 similarly employed donor money to recruit new members, with one SPLC employee even knowing that F-32, quote, used donors' money to purchase material to make Klan garments for other members. The DOJ conclusively alleged that the SPLC reimbursed both F-31 and F-32 with donor money for all expenses they incurred for cross-burning events to include the wood and fuel used. The SPLC also allegedly deployed similar tactics with a separate individual identified as F-30. According to the DOJ, that person who led the National Socialist Party of America, predictably, was also a member of the Klan and was the leader of a faction of the Aryan nations, purportedly wanted to leave the white national movement and sought SPLC's help to do so. So this would be like somebody who, you see those, if you've ever been at the airport or at the hospital and you go into the bathroom and there's a sign that's like, hey, if you are in an abused relationship or if you are in human trafficking, there's help. Leave a note or call this number or do this thing. And you do it, and then the people who come to rescue you sell you into human trafficking. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center is doing. So, similar to F-31 and F-32, the Southern Poverty Law Center allegedly paid F-30 more than $70,000 in donor funds from 2010 to 16 to stay in the radical group, with F-30 supposedly using the funds to travel and to host extremist rallies, recruit new members, and donate money to leaders of other extremist organizations. You want to talk about one of the biggest scams And one of the complaints that in past years have come from whistleblowers who worked at the Southern Poverty Law Center was about how the entire operation was a money-making scheme. In fact, the founder, one of the two founders of the organization, prior to this, did this sort of business model in other ways, and he did different network marketing stuff and so forth, and then stumbled upon this idea that we can make money off of people's fear of hate. And so they took what was a real-life situation and a number of other situations at the time in which you had actual acts of racism against black people and black churches raising money off it. But again, as those things began in our culture, we improved, we moved past that era. That meant the money was drying up. So they had to keep the hate going. So they're paying people to stay in these hate organizations. They're paying people to recruit new individuals, to ship people. The Charlottesville event that Joe Biden has used over and over again to justify his reason for running for the presidency. We learned from the previous information released from the indictment a couple of months ago that they were instrumental in busing people to that. These people have helped keep alive the hate groups that they tell us all we should be so afraid of. We need to give them money in order to make them go away. Springfield's talk, which I want to note, this is the way the left operates with everything, including in government. And that isn't to say that there aren't some Republicans that are in on the gag, but you look at how is it, we need to tax the rich to fight poverty. We need all these programs to fight poverty. All it does is create more poverty. We need public education in order to make sure that kids aren't uneducated. What do we get? Increased uneducation. You really see it out in California and a number of these other Democrat-run cities. We need $1.8 billion in order to eliminate homelessness. Where'd the money go? Don't know. How many homeless do we have? Twice as many. They take money from people, promising to use it to fix a problem while they're actually creating more of the problem, intentionally or otherwise. But for the Southern Poverty Law Center, it's clear, according to the indictment, it was intentional. I want a great homeloan.com. You got a great home loan. You need a great home loan. You need the characters. I shared a review yesterday, someone who talked about how it was a Saturday and he and his wife, he's like, of course, it was the weekend and here we found a home. Now, what they didn't do that arguably they should have done is gotten that pre-approval process done ahead of time. That's always right. Emily Johnson talks about this. Make sure you have that done, because if you don't, and then you find a home and you like, well, I went online and did the calculations and it told me this, but that really doesn't mean anything. So you find that perfect home and it's, $375,000, and then you go through that pre-approval process and you find out for whatever reason that you don't qualify for that. Or you do, but the payments are going to be such that it's going to make you house poor, if you will. Now, the person who left the review had not done that. Maybe they weren't actually in the market, so they thought. But then he said, we came across their dream home on a Saturday, wouldn't you know it? Now, if you get your home loans through anyone else, you're waiting until Monday. You go to iwantagreathomeloan.com. There's Alex Carricker and Anthony Carricker's name and their cell phone numbers. Called them on a Saturday. They were pre-approved before the open house the following day occurred. That's the level of service you get when it comes to home loans, refinancing, reverse mortgages at iwantagreathomeloan.com. Because you do. When it comes to the efforts by the left to virtually eliminate women's sports and women's safe spaces by way of saying men can join them, which is, it does. Of course, they're going to say that's not the elimination of it. Well, of course, it is the elimination of it. I mean, it's like if you say, hey, we sell a mixed bag of Starburst, but we also sell a bag of only strawberry Starburst. And then suddenly, the bag of strawberry Starburst, you're allowing other Starburst to go in there, and somebody comes in and say, I'd like just strawberry Starburst. And then you hand them that bag. They're like, no. Do you not sell just strawberry Starburst any longer? They're like, yeah, here in this bag. But I see other Starburst in there. No. They're all strawberry. No, they're not. You no longer sell only strawberry Starburst. By allowing boys and girls sports, you're eliminating girls sports. The defense the left oftentimes uses is that this rarely happens. The United Nations came out with a report last year that noted this happens quite often. And not only, and they documented hundreds and hundreds of cases in which girls lost scholarships, they lost out on opportunities, they lost out on the ability to advance from regionals to state. But there were significant numbers of injuries, serious injuries, that women also, or girls, also suffered because of men being allowed to play in their sports. That report, of course, didn't get quite the attention that it deserved because it runs counter to the lies that the left tells about this situation. I came across a story, however, that I think gives us even a greater appreciation for how much success in some areas of the country the Democrats have been at eliminating girls' sports. The U.S. Department of Education sent a warning letter to the Jefferson County Public Schools in Colorado yesterday. This is the Jefferson County Public Schools, Colorado, one district. After the department determined in March that the school district may have put up to 61 male students on girls' sports teams. 61. And by the way, part of the reason this gets done, it isn't only because you have these pervert/obsessed individuals with, and some of it I think is misogyny. It's girls. It's this view that girls are second class, and so this whole girls having their own sports thing is silly and ridiculous, and so you do have some of that. But some of it's just straight up cheating. If you get hired as a coach of a school and you are, of course you have bonuses tied to or potential promotions, or you can move to a different district if you want to, because you turn around a sports team and you don't have ethics, and cheating is not outside the realm of your moral compass. What do? When you have the opportunity to add guys to your girls' team, going up against other teams throughout the area that your team competes, knowing that most of them, or some of them may have male sports, but so in this district, 61. So for a lot of them, it's just straight up cheating. They'll masquerade it as, oh, well, I mean, we're just wanting every child to be who that child actually is, and we want to create a safe. Oh, bull crap! A lot of them just want to win, and they know if they add a guy or multiple guys to a girls' team, odds are whomever they come up against aren't going to have any girls, or maybe not as many, and it just gives them a straight up advantage. And who suffers? The girls. And I again note in this debate, every time this comes up, every time there's somebody that gets the short end of the stick, every time there's somebody that gets threatened, every time there's somebody that gets punished for speaking up, it's never a guy. It's always a girl. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Next week, we are going to see highs in the upper 80s, so we are getting into AC season. Now, if your AC unit has been struggling to keep up, now is the time to get ahead of those repairs. And my go-to HVAC folks, Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Before I found Foreman, I had a home warranty company that came with my house, and when something went wrong with my HVAC, they just picked a company that came out. And I'm telling you, the techs, they were always late, they didn't communicate, and sometimes they just wouldn't show up. Now, I don't know if that was a problem with the home warranty company. I don't know if that was a problem with the company they picked, but it was very frustrating, especially when something was wrong. But then I found Russell and his team, and let me tell you, they're just amazing to work with. They communicate with you, and they are just always upfront and honest about the work that needs to be done. So whether you need maintenance or maybe you need a more energy efficient upgrade, make sure that you reach out to Russell. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Springfield's Talk 104.1. What's that? It smells like cake.
I don't know.
Did you put creamer? Is it her coffee?
Maybe, I don't know.
I got a
I do
whiff. It
not
smelled like
smell
cake.
Yeah.
I smelled it.
It's me because I'm so
Do
sweet.
you smell cake?
I'm so sweet.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Christy Fulnecki here with us.
It's like 1,000 degrees in here.
It is 1,000 degrees. It's almost.
Ooh.
It's almost there.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? It's not raining from the ceiling.
That's right.
So that's
It's almost as hot as the fires in California.
almost, but not quite. We have happy hour coming up tomorrow, 4 to 6, Vineyard Market. Heads up to everyone, including you. Just to let you know. Heads up there. Oh, full Nicky. And maybe I should text Eric and get him in the loop on it. See if he can come. I have more. I'd rather him come anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Talk about the latest
nicer.
things the latest things we've had on the old Traeger.
Yeah.
I still haven't done the smoked bologna, which he does, and it's excellent.
It's so good.
You think
Yeah, he
this
does a great
is
job
not
with that.
your the first place ever.
It's not Oscar Mayer.
No, it is not. Well, I never have cared for bologna, and the first time that I ever realized that the standard bologna that I was familiar with as a kid is not a full representation of all bologna offerings out there was whenever Retro Metro had on their menu, it was some style of sandwich that had bologna, smoked bologna on it. And I thought, why? Because I wanted to try everything on the menu. And so I thought, well, I'll try it. And it became one of my absolute favorites.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so then when Eric, he had asked, or I think at some event at your house, he had smoked some. And so
Yeah, I can't remember what
I
it was.
probably would not have had it otherwise. But I was like, I actually learned that good bologna's good. And,
Oh, it's so good.
But I still have not done it. But I think because don't you have to buy? I mean, you have a huge family.
Yeah, right.
So you buy a
That's what we-
giant log of it. I don't know what I would do with all of that if I was the
know,
problem.
that's
I mean,
Yeah, because usually we feed our kids,
Right.
and then all their friends come.
Yeah. So
it's like
so you can
30
do
or 40
that
people by the time we're done.
that stuff in big masses like that, but that just doesn't work for my family.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
leftovers.
A lot of them for a very long time
that's
for
true.
us.
Yeah.
Or I'll just come back over to your place whenever you guys are.
Just have so much food. I know. I'm like, we have such a big family, and then first we turn around and there's always just so many kids. But I really like it. It's good that they want to be at our house and eat.
Yeah, no,
Four-wheelers.
it's nice, I think, knowing that you have the sort of home that not only do your own children feel comfortable having their friends over, but their friends feel comfortable being over there.
Oh, that's true.
I think that's a nice thing. It says a
Oh,
lot.
that's nice.
Our
So,
child never brings anyone over, so I don't know. No, that's not true. I have.
Red flag. Red flag.
Yeah. In fact, we're always like, don't you have any friends? Why are you always going to? How come when they come over to pick you up, you don't invite them inside? And you ask them, you're like, just don't even pull in the driveway. Just, in fact, park at the house next door. Why is that? We got some great audio today, some fantastic Marco Rubio audio.
Before we get
Yes.
in. So I saw for the third time I saw the Michael movie.
Oh,
Speaking
wow.
of-
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No, I know
Oh,
how it
yeah.
ends, so.
Well, it's not about his whole life. It just goes up to a certain
Yeah.
point. But it's a really good movie. I haven't seen it so many times. I mean, I really like it, but just because my kids at different points wanted to take again their friends,
Oh,
so
sure.
we're and it's interesting to hear them ask questions because they haven't really asked questions about the 80s and the
Yeah.
pop stars and stuff. And I thought, I was saying this last night. I was with all of our girls, and my son was with my husband, and so these other girls, and they were saying, asking what it was like, when during the Pepsi commercial when he was in the news after his caught on fire and everything. And I said, yeah, I mean, that was all over the news.
yeah.
That was a big thing, like for everybody. Every time something happened to Michael Jackson, it was in the news everywhere. And I said, I don't know since then or if there'll ever be such a big icon
Right.
as he was.
Well, and some of that also, I think, is the result of the fact that everyone has so much access to so much information
Yeah.
that it makes it. There's so much more out there that there's no real filtration system, and so that was an era in which one person could have so many more eyes on them because there were less other things to look at, if that makes sense,
Right. That's
So
true. Well, and they were saying too how they didn't have any black artists on MTV, and how they Michael Jackson really pushed to get his
yeah.
videos on. He kept saying his short movies or something like that. But yeah, but the it was interesting because I remember watching MTV all the time when I was young, and I'm trying to explain this, and I said,
Right.
well, but we didn't have phones or anything, so when you're watching, it's not like you have YouTube and you
Yeah,
can't
that's where you
record
saw the
anything,
videos.
and so you have to sit there and just watch it because you couldn't record
Right.
it or anything. And so, but I thought that really launched him, with Thriller too, because you saw all of his videos, which were really good.
I knew the movie must have been doing well because yesterday I saw a reel, and it was a girl. She was probably in her early 20s sitting on a beach. I didn't have the audio on, but you could see her yammering, and the text said that one friend who saw the MJ movie and suddenly is a huge Michael Jackson fan. So she was just going on. I thought, okay, the movie must be making some ground.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
okay,
Oh,
well,
the
I've
kid,
heard
it was
good
really
things
good.
about it.
It's really good.
Christy Fulnecki with us. We've got weather coming up here in just a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 83. Tonight, a chance for scattered showers in the early evening and then partly cloudy with a low around 66. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 84. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 85.
got some audio. Now, I do have some great. Have you watched or heard any of these hearings with Marco Rubio?
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're just fantastic. But I did want to play because
so funny.
He's overshadowing Scott Bessent and some of the testimony that he has had. And he was testifying Wednesday morning before the Senate Finance Committee. And I wanted to share a couple clips of audio of him before we get to the Rubio stuff. And this is Tillis of South Carolina asking him, and we talked about this, there were rumors at one point prior, like in the very early months of the administration, of Bessent getting into or threatening to punch someone in the face.
Oh,
Like,
I remember that.
I remember we talked about it. Remember this, Sarah? We talked about this fighting that was allegedly going on in the White House with Bessent. Is she even listening? I know she's over there doing something else. Okay.
Yes,
Well,
I
but we talked about.
Oh no,
this.
I missed something.
Yeah, you did.
this
You missed
was-
it. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I was editing.
No, we were
No,
talking
that's
about Bessent, and so you remember how we talked about early in the administration there were rumors that he threatened to punch someone in the face, that there was this big argument, because we were laughing about it and everything. So apparently this person that he was said to have threatened to have punched in the face at the time is the guy that Trump just tapped as the new DNI director, which is not a very popular pick. I've heard a lot of across anti-Trump people, of course, don't like him, but I've heard even some Trump supporters like, this guy is not a good pick. I have no idea. To me, that's not relevant right now for the purposes of this. So this is the Senator Tillis of South Carolina asking him about that rumor.
I do have one awkward question to ask you real quick, and then I want to get to some of the trends and how you're going to work on them. Did you actually tell Pulte you were going to punch him in the face?
No, sir. I actually said I was going to kick his ass.
Good. I share the emotion. Thank you.
And as I said, that was last summer 25. And many teams have fights in the locker room and then go out and win for the team on the field.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because everybody's going to be showing that. I made it clear I'm not going to support Pulte for DNI, but I'm sure they're going to dredge that up.
But
So I thought I'd give you an opportunity.
I had a very good exchange with the director yesterday. Want to keep the momentum going on the FX.
Yeah, well, he lost me when he went after Powell.
Okay.
Well, and I wanted to carry over the last part. Well, because
I love that.
That's Trump.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Bessent is also that way or if he's that way because Trump, but that's one thing about Trump. And you look at virtually everyone. Marco Rubio is a perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, those two just shredded one another, and Trump was ruthless about it, but when it comes to the country and what is good for the country, Trump puts all that stuff aside, and Bessent there's like, hey, yeah, no, I didn't threaten to punch him in the face, threatened to kick his ass, but hey, we just had a great meeting. That was a year ago, and we get to, and
Was it Rubio that Trump was talking about the small hands?
yeah, small hands Rubio. Yeah. Now this is a little more serious, and I love that people from the Trump administration straight up call these pieces of crap out.
Oh, yeah.
These senators and these Congress people that sit up there all high and mighty as if they're righteous and untouchable and start lobbing accusations at these people. And this is Democrat Senator Wyden in an exchange with Bessent.
Senator Wyden has mendaciously slandered the Treasury building in an attempt to cover up his son having an investment meeting with Jeffrey Epstein to ask for funding. Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
let's be clear here. Nobody is interested in the ramblings of a capo in the most corrupt regime in American history. We want to get some facts about this deal. That's what we're here for. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I will ask my questions first today.
And we would like to hear what Adam Wyden and Jeffrey Epstein talked about. Your son's largest investment position was Rick's Cabaret. So did your son and Jeffrey Epstein talk about pole dancing as he begged him for money using your limited credibility?
Whoa.
Burn.
That's right. It's so funny that when you look at him, You do not expect that. I think that's what's so funny about Besson, because you don't expect him to say something like that, but the guy is so brilliant. He really is so funny.
And this shouldn't matter, and I don't even know if it does, but a lot of people don't know this because Trump doesn't care about this stuff. But Besson is openly gay.
Yeah, I
And
told somebody that the other day, and they
Yeah,
nobody knows that.
and that's because
Not that it
Republicans
matters.
don't care about that. It's
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, I find it kind of funny that it's like I just find that part of it.
They can't call him a homophobe, so they gotta call it.
Yeah. But there's just something, I don't know, maybe because the stereotypical homosexual isn't like that masculine stereotyping, here, and he seems to be the out of, like, behind the scenes anyway, the one that's like, oh, you want to fight? All right, Scott. Okay, all right. Like at any given moment, he's like, oh, you want to go at it? You just stay away from Scott. Let's do some Marco Rubio audio coming up here. The Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki with us. We do have happy hour tomorrow, 4 to 6, Vineyard Market. Come out and join us, everyone. That includes you.
Okay.
All right. So we've got some Marco Rubio audio. I've tried to put these in order of what I thought would be better to best to best,
Okay.
But it's kind of
Yeah,
hard.
there's been a lot this week.
So, and he's just so good at this. I mean, he's so good at
He's
it.
so
He's
smart,
almost
too.
like, how you love Trump because Trump sticks it to him. Marco Rubio has to stick it to him, but he does it with a finesse that while Trump is like,
Yeah.
get Ralph and just smashing things. Marco Rubio is that ballerina slash ninja. He's just like cat-like nimbility. Is that a word, nimbility? What's for
The other side too. So
Yes.
Since he was in the Senate, he knows exactly what they're going to say.
Now, the first exchange, you've got this Democrat. These are all members of Congress. He was before the Senate yesterday. We played some of that audio, and now we are over in Congress, and you've got Congressman Lou over there, who is part of the. He's one of these Democrats with all these conspiracy theories about Donald Trump's health, and the same people who told us that. who in their their non-professional assessment, Joe Biden was perfectly healthy and sharp as a tack, are now giving their assessment of Donald Trump having something wrong with him, and here he is grilling or attempting to grill Marco Rubio on that issue.
There's a reason he keeps going to the hospital and they keep giving him cognitive tests. We have not seen the president in 8 days. The American people deserve the truth. I yield back.
I don't even know how to respond to that, other than to tell you that it's absurd and ridiculous. And I can't believe we're in a Foreign Affairs Committee meeting in front of the House, an important time in American foreign policy.
Just keep lying,
answering
Secretary Rubio.
questions
Just keep
from
lying.
Supposedly someone who thinks he's a medical expert when he's not. The truth of the matter is we had a cognitively impaired president in office a few years ago. That's a cognitively impaired president, but I don't like to talk about that because it weakens America. This president we have, this is a guy that literally doesn't sleep. He works day and night, long hours, every single day. I don't know if you haven't seen him in 8 days. I saw him yesterday. I didn't see him yesterday because I was in Congress the day before. I talked to him at all hours of the day and night. He works inhumane hours. Okay, I've been on foreign trips with the president that he doesn't sleep in the whole flight. And everyone else is sleeping on the plane, and he's, wandering the hallways looking for someone to wake up and talk to that people are. So I don't know what you're referring to, but he has an incredible amount of energy. I'm just telling you, you may not like his policies. You may not like his policies, you may not like the decisions he's made, but I assure you, this is not a president that sleeps or is cognitively impaired in any way, shape, or form, and in fact is incredibly active, much more so in many cases than much younger people that are around him. Those are facts. I see it every day. You're not going to agree because you have another narrative that you want to push, but those are the facts.
Now,
that was so good.
The next bit I want to play is, and I don't know who this congressman is, but he's quite lobbing accusations, and don't give him time to answer. So what has been occurring is because they go Democrat, Republicans, Marco Rubio would ask them, can I use some of your time in order to answer these questions? Right. So the Republicans were like, yeah, I have questions, but we'll go ahead and let you, answer these questions. And so this is one of those Democrat, he's going on and on yelling about Ukraine. And finally, at some point, Marco Rubio references his 5 minutes.
In your opening remarks, that you took us all over the world, and you mentioned 15 different incidents where you have interceded. 15, the top 15. Not once did you mention Ukraine when you were prioritizing the achievement that's there. Now let me go on.
Try to stay under.
Let me go on. Oh, you tried to stay. Yeah, please.
Well,
it's not funny.
That.
It's not funny, Secretary. Now,
what's not funny
in Iran now.
Well, you don't.
In Iran now, I reclaim my
here.
time. I reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
You guys make these statements and
he is interrupting me. I'm doing it. I'm asking you to reclaim those seconds back.
No.
Now
The chair was like, no. The look on his face was like he looked at it like he could not believe. What do you mean, no? Now, there's another instance in which.
That's why you need to retain the majority, okay, Republicans?
I mean, it's so true.
Yeah.
They keep, one of the things that Republicans have been out there, they're not leading with it, but, if Democrats get back in charge, they're going to impeach Trump. I don't think that matters to much. They've made impeachment irrelevant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not that that's a good thing or it is irrelevant, but people are like, oh, okay, you did that twice before, so that's what you're going to spend your time doing. But yeah, can you imagine these people in charge?
The country down.
Yeah, there's that.
That's a stronger argument, I think.
Of course, I think that they're. I mean, you also could make an argument that we're getting off the beaten path here, but but I think there can be an argument made that if, let's say, Republicans retain Congress, are they, especially with the Senate, and let's say they retain the Senate, but you still have Thune running it, are they really, in the last 2 years, going to pass any legislation that's really, truly meaningful that Trump would sign? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I think probably not, but maybe. On the flip side, if Democrats do get control of Congress, they're not going to. This is all they're going to be able to do, right? They can't.
Yeah.
I mean, they can pass stuff, but then they have the Senate. Trump could veto it also. But it would put them at the forefront, and I don't know that would help them going into the presidential election. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That they could do more harm than good because legislatively they won't be able to get anything passed. Now they can stop investigations from going forward in Congress, but at the same time, I think a lot of Americans feel what good do those investigations do anyway?
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Now they'll start investigating Trump. They're going to do all of that stuff, but again, and don't get me wrong, I don't want Democrats to get control. But if they do, I just think of, okay, what are the real life implications of that over the next 2 years? And I don't know that it certainly wouldn't be as devastating as Democrats, going back to when they controlled everything, the Senate and the House and the White House.
Having a list
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
annoying
Yeah.
like subcommittee meetings and
Yeah,
where they
no, I
control the whole
100%.
agenda.
100%. And don't allow Republicans to pick their members for the committee. I mean, that's what Nancy Pelosi did with January 6th. I mean, completely just violated all of the rules and the norms and said, no, you don't get to pick. I'll pick Nancy Pelosi and Kinzinger. Oh, what a gem of a pick that was.
And I have to say that on Trump. I mean, what Rubio was saying about Trump walking around the plane and trying to find somebody to talk to, that is so funny. Because Trump, I had to check, he's going to be 80.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
I love
to
the
me.
description too, because you think about the previous administration, Joe Biden wandering around because he didn't know where he was. And when it's Trump wandering around, it's because everybody else is asleep and he's trying to find somebody to engage with intellectually.
Yeah, and you hear people say like he'll text him in the middle of the night, in the morning. I mean, the guy must sleep in a suit. I was thinking about that. I mean, he always looks so nice. He must just be like in the middle of the night, they're going to the situation room.
I bet he wears a full pajama outfit. I never thought about that. I wonder what he sleeps.
Oh, yeah.
I bet it's a full pajama.
Totally. Because, I mean, you have to really, as many emergency meetings as he calls, and Iran, like you're seeing people like run into the White House. I mean, he must get dressed like really fast.
What if he has pajamas that look like a suit? Like there's those tuxedo t-shirts. He has pajamas that way just in case. He's got I don't have time to put on my pants and just
so on, he runs downstairs. Wherever it is.
Got a traffic update. More coming up in moments with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 83. Tonight, a chance for scattered showers in the early evening and then partly cloudy with a low around 66. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 84, and for Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 85.
I don't know what Congresswoman is. This Madeline Dean? This might be Madeline Dean. Most of these members of Congress I don't know, and what these Democrats have become like the media has during, and it's not so bad this administration, but the first administration we had Jim Acosta and the other, is that the White House press briefings was all about making time, like getting themselves on the news.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It wasn't about answering or getting questions answered and learning information. And that's what Democrats have become with these hearings, and why they don't even allow time to answer the questions, because they just want their moment in the spotlight. And this is, again, yesterday in front of the House, this hearing that Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, sat down for. And I think this may be a Congresswoman Madeline Dean, but nonetheless, here is another one of the exchanges from yesterday.
Last year, a new and untested organization called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was set up by Israel and the United States within a few short months to take over distribution of emergency food assistance amid catastrophic food insecurity and famine in Gaza. GHF had no track record of providing humanitarian assistance, and it relied on private subcontractors to transport the food, to provide food distribution sites, and then you saw the reporting. Hundreds of Palestinians, including women and children, were killed just trying to get to those sites. Secretary Rubio, can you tell us, can you tell the world how many people were killed simply trying to access those sites?
Well, since Hamas killed them, you should ask what Hamas's role was.
IDF soldiers shot some of them.
No.
Yes.
Let me tell you the reason why food wasn't going in there is because the convoys were being hijacked by Hamas.
I reclaim my time because propaganda ain't going to work with me.
Well, it isn't going to work with me either, and what you're saying is propaganda.
Nearly 1,400 people were killed, and that was as of last March. Secretary Rubio, why did the State Department approve the $30 million to GHF at a time when other well-tested agencies were there and able to provide distribution?
Well, because one of those were in cahoots with Hamas. And we saw an incredible amount of the aid flow into Hamas's hands.
Reclaiming my time, the aid was held up at the border by Israel, and
you got to fix your rules here. You can't even answer a question.
You're not following the rules. You're very familiar with how this works.
No, I never served in that. This is a weird rule.
The time is
the question and I can't answer.
Would you please add time to the clock?
Nope.
I like that chairman, whoever that chairman is. So that was Democrat Representative Madeline Dean of Pennsylvania. This exchange is Democrat Sarah Jacobs from California.
I assume you're aware that Greenland is indeed part of Denmark.
For now.
Okay. Well,
actually, scratch that. That's another bit of audio. Sorry. Here we go.
The 2020 presidential election.
I'm not here to answer a question. We're talking about 2020. This is a foreign affairs committee.
Okay, great. You can't answer the question, even though we all know.
I don't answer the question because the Secretary of State, I do not participate in domestic political issues.
Political issues.
Certainly
this is about our democracy.
You're asking me to opine just like I don't do campaign
rallies.
Seems like I don't do because as Secretary of State, we're not supposed to. That's been the long tradition of the department, and you should know that if you've been on this committee for any period of time.
Mr. Secretary, it seems like you have an issue admitting facts. You can't say that the president lost the 2020 election, just like you won't admit President Trump is losing this reckless war of choice, and just like you couldn't admit that the shoes the president bought you were too big. You clearly don't know what winning means, and not because the facts are unclear to you, it's because telling the truth would cost you your job, and the American people are entitled to a Secretary of State who tells them the truth even when the president doesn't want to hear it, and my constituents, our service members, deserve better. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I don't know what shoes she's talking about. What is she talking about?
Representative Burchett, your request.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'd like to
answer any of that.
Yeah, I don't know about the
I'll
shoes.
give
I mean,
you a
he gave me
minute.
some Florsheim shoes. They're actually pretty good. They fit fine. I don't know what she's talking about. And maybe that's what she's referring to.
Your shoes look very nice today, Mr. Secretary.
How can you see them? They're way down here. We're talking about shoes. Are you guys kidding me? I mean, is this the Foreign Affairs Committee or is this like a circus? What is this?
It is embarrassing.
No.
And as
And you listen to that and you think these are.
I know.
At least those two women. I'm ashamed that they're in Congress.
I know.
I mean, that's terrible.
And
how did they even get on the Foreign Affairs Committee?
Well, apparently, they are, in the minds of Democrat leadership, the best that they have when it comes to understanding foreign affairs. And this is on the world stage. And this isn't about there shouldn't be debate. I wish that there were legitimate intellectual people to ask questions. Because here's the problem. This is the problem they create. They create a world in which there really isn't any legitimate pushback. Because their pushback is not legitimate. It's dumb. It's ignorant. It's not based in any reality. And I think that in a healthy society, you have intellectual debate. You do have people that ask legitimate questions about things that are going on. That would ask the Secretary of State, this is going on. You guys are doing this. What about that? And unfortunately, we don't have that. And the irony is the Democrat Party wants to create pushback, but they've created a vacuum of legitimate pushback to where they're not worth even listening to. And so there is no legitimate debate that's going on in this country.
You really wonder if they understand what the role of the committee is.
I don't think they understand anything.
You think they do? Do you even understand that it's not even relevant to talk about domestic affairs? I mean, I could put all 6 of my kids up there, and they would ask smarter questions than those 2 women just did.
It's such an embarrassment.
It is very embarrassing, and because it's not just that they're Democrats. You represent America, and you are talking like that. I mean.
Even the way she talks, it's like, like a valley girl.
I know. I'm thinking this is a teenage girl that's up there talking.
And so people who hate Trump, they will say that, the Trump administration is this and that. Then why can you not put up someone that asks legitimate questions? This is what you come up with. If Trump is so bad, if Trump is so horrible at dealing with foreign countries and foreign affairs, why can you not come up with something solid and legitimate to discuss or to ask instead of this just stuff that is... I mean, Marco Rubio, I think, does a great job through his expressions of demonstrating how worthless these people are and how here they are using this as an opportunity that is completely wasted by talking about this stuff that's so irrelevant. It's embarrassing.
It's just grandstanding. But I mean, the first woman, why can she say, I'm worried about, the access to food in Gaza? And then ask this. I mean, those are maybe legitimate questions. Just ask it away if you're actually intellectually curious about what happened, and then he would answer.
Well, and in the fact that they and some of them even at times are like, I don't want an answer, and that's the point here. They don't. They are just wanting to make wild accusations, and they don't want him to talk because they don't want people to hear him explain how they're wrong or hear the context of things. And I would once again note this is a vast difference, generally speaking, between the left and the right. The left never wants people to hear what the right has to say, while the right is constantly making sure everyone hears exactly what the left says. And that tells you something. We've got one more bit of audio coming up. Christy Fulnecki, I'm Nick Reed. Before the latest bit of Marco Rubio audio, I wanted to share with you what Troy had to say regarding Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. We had a fantastic experience with Hunter Hardscape. Daniel really took the time to listen to what we wanted, and he came back with a design that exceeded our expectations. He built a beautiful retaining wall around our patio, added landscaping in both the front and back of the house, installed outdoor lighting that really brings together everything, and finished the project by adding sod and seed to the entire yard. The whole process was smooth, and the final results looked incredible. We could not be happier, and highly recommend Hunter Hardscapes for anyone looking for quality work and outstanding service. And I should note, I mean, this is local. This is like Daniel Hunter. That you hear all these people talk about working with Daniel. He is the owner of the company. He is on site. He helps plan all of this stuff. And so not only do you get local, but you get the quality that is the absolute best in terms of knowledge, craftsmanship, and product quality as well. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. You can find them at hunterhardscapes.com. One last audio bit. Marco Rubio. Now, let me kind of explain what goes on here. There is yet again and I'm telling you, liberal women are the worst.
I know.
Now, the first
really.
two were white. This is a black liberal. Now, white liberal women are the absolute worst in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, in an attempt to prove that all races are equal, this black congresswoman is competing for dumbest woman in the room against the two white liberal women. And she's railing on him. And then you have the next person up, which is a female Republican, and she starts to talk, and Marco Rubio asks, can I use some of your time to answer her? And in the meantime, that when he's going to answer the Democrat congresswoman's questions, she gets up to leave. So that's what is going on. That's what is going on here with this scenario.
Unfortunately, Representative Time's expired. Representative Salazar is recognized.
Yes, and giving contracts with no transparency is exactly the reason why you shut down USAID. So practice what you preach.
Oh, she gets to scream now too?
Chairman, can we take down her?
I'll give you some time. Some of my time. Then you just
okay.
Just
oh, God, what kind of thing is this? What is this? You get asked questions for 5 minutes and you don't get time to answer. It's not a hearing.
I think you said clown.
Like a dunk tank. What is this?
Tell you.
I've even used their time. How can I answer the question? They don't even give me time. I've had to use their time to answer your question.
Yes.
All right, whatever.
All right, so I don't need to tell you that in my community, the city that I represent, the city of Miami, you're one of the most illustrious representatives, and that we're very proud of you, not only the Cuban Americans, but the Hispanic Americans in
Why is she leaving? I'm going to answer her questions.
I will.
Oh, okay, I got it. Well, thank you for coming.
But listen to the difference. Here you've got those three leftist women, and then you heard speaking, though it was just a bit of it, a Republican Hispanic congresswoman. And just the presentation is a world of difference.
Logical.
Very logical, straightforward, not hysterical, not screeching. And I mean,
well, isn't it so interesting how much the Democrats miss USAID? Because I mean, especially right now, coming up to the elections. I mean,
well, sure, it was all money laundering.
No, I mean that's what I keep thinking. Like everyone's campaign funds are drying up. Hey, speaking of campaign funds, I don't want to switch the topic.
No,
if you don't want to.
No.
Hey, I donated a Pratt's campaign.
Oh yeah,
and it's so funny because I'm getting all this information, but he is so cool. I really like him, and but I mean, I just made a small donation, and then on the thing I wrote, I don't know what it was on. I said, I'm all the way from Missouri. We're supporting you from Missouri, and
that's cool.
I know.
I've only donated to one campaign that wasn't like an area that affected me, and it was a gal who was running for mayor in Sonoma, I want to say, and it was because she was an actress that was on the OC, and she ended up becoming like a kind of a libertarian righty. And Sonoma, I think it's Sonoma. I'll have to look it up. And it's very lefty. And she was like this real valiant effort. I mean, she was straightforward, normal, out there really working on the campaign. And she was posting videos and stuff. So I actually donated. It wasn't a lot, but I thought, man, she has got an uphill battle going on. And of course, because she had been Hollywood, she's supposed to be a lefty, and so yeah, that's one outside of the in an area that didn't have any impact. I mean, she didn't win.
Did you see what they had on, like their clothes? I always like on Tuesday when they went to vote. Is his wife? He had like all black on. His wife had all white on, and I mean it was kind of cool. I thought.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that he made it.
Yeah.
To the general election. Well, we'll have yet to see. That takes them weeks to count votes. It is so corrupt. And in fact, there are a lot of Republicans that expect them to find enough Democrat votes for not just that race, but for the gubernatorial race, that they'll just keep counting votes until the Republican in each of those categories, Spencer Pratt or being LA mayor, that they'll end up in third place. And that's just because that cheating is so normal in Democrat areas that Republicans are just sort of expecting it, a lot of them. They're like, yeah, this is just how it works in California.
Yeah, I saw something post about all the different countries that have, populations like 10 times that size that count their votes in 8 hours. Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And here's the other thing a lot of people don't realize, and this is how set up it is to rig elections in California. They mail ballots to every mailbox in California.
Right, I saw that.
They just send them out. It's every single mailbox that exists in California gets them out.
It was somewhere Jesse Waters or someone said that their producer hadn't lived there in like 10 years, and it was in another state.
So there are literally ballots floating around all over the place for anyone to grab. Anyone.
I mean, the great thing, if they were elected, at least you could change their election laws.
Well,
Maybe,
but you'd have to get Republicans in the legislature. This is the problem with when you rig it to the degree they do. Even if you have, a figure that's going to be running for an executive position, and they do somehow manage to overcome all of the corruption and cheating, you still have the legislature. You still have the, so they've rigged it to where it's virtually impossible that it will ever be anything other than a one-party system like China or North Korea. And
make California great again.
But the other thing that they do is after they send out just to every mailbox that exists. It's the same way that you get these mass mailings for, used to be Publishers Clearinghouse or whatever, where it says to resident. That's like they go out to everyone. And then, of course, they count them for a week after the postmark. So if it's postmarked up, but then they do what's called curing. So if they get so then they have their people, and of course Democrats run all of this stuff.
Yeah.
They go through, and if there's a ballot that maybe they only voted for one person and they didn't vote for all the other Democrats, or they didn't sign it, so it's not a legal ballot, they are able to, quote, track them down and go, hey, did you want to vote for these other people?
Or, hey, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Which, of course, all that does is allow them to fill out ballots. The whole thing, I honestly, at this point, other than for Democrats in primaries, I don't know why they even bother having elections.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there's no point. It's just a waste of money, and it's pretending as if that system out there in California has anything that even resembles honest democracy.
Yeah.
And it's run by the party that says they care so much about elections and democracy.
I don't know. There's still a lot of conservatives that still live
No,
there
there
for
are.
whatever reason.
Well, they're
Torturing themselves.
they are moving out in
Yeah.
droves. Christy Fulneck, as always, thank you. It's a
Yes,
great
you're
pleasure.
welcome.
We got a traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hello, welcome, my friends. Hour number 3. Excited about our happy hour tomorrow at Vineyard Market in Ozark. If you've not been there, it's a fantastic place. They're open for lunch as well. They have a fantastic menu. Whether it is lunch or it's dinner, if you like cigars, they've got an incredible humidor. One of the great things about the folks there, and this includes Heather. Luke and Heather Davis are the owners of the establishment, and they do I know, Sarah, you were telling me, because I think you check their calendar every once in a while, they'll have cigar nights just for women.
Yeah, ladies' night.
And
They also have what's called Read Between the Wines, and they have a book club that meets every month, and they just, sit around and drink wine and read books, and I'm like, that sounds fun.
They put these postings on their website. I'm sure their social media as well, but I think they have sort of a calendar format on their website. Point being is, you go to a lot of these places, and the staff may not know anything about the cigars or anything about the wines or anything about the whiskeys, but they're very educated on all of these things, some from their own experience. And so if maybe you're looking to buy a gift, you want to get somebody a nice bottle of wine or maybe a whiskey, or, maybe it's somebody that likes cigars, but you have no clue anything about any of those things, they are definitely the place to go and just straight up tell them, hey, I've got a friend. This is what they like whiskeys, but I have no clue what I'm doing, or cigars or whatever it may be. And they're going to be able to help you. They love doing that. And like I said, they've got fantastic foods, and they do live music and stuff periodically as well. But if you follow them on social media, you can keep in the loop on that. And then this Friday, it'll be a great chance, if you've not been there before, to check them out, as we are having our happy hour 4 to 6. It's come and go as you please. We just hang out and have a good time. Ozarks Elder Law, if you don't plan at all, you are planning. You're planning for potential disaster. You're planning for being shortchanged. You're planning for the government to make decisions for you and your family. And you may say to yourself, well, I'm married, so that means I get to make those decisions because by law, nope. Missouri doesn't work that way. Even when it comes to medical decisions for your husband or your wife. We kept hearing during the whole gay marriage debate thing, like, well, gay people need to get married. That way they can make medical decisions for in Missouri, it doesn't matter, gay, straight, whatever. If you do not have legal documentation that says, hey, if I can't make decisions for myself, this is the person that can do it, then the hospital decides. In fact, I've mentioned just a couple of weeks ago finalizing stuff for my mother, and she mentioned that she had recently gone to visit her new doctor, and she took those papers to her doctor to get in the system. That way, should there be some sort of medical episode and she's not able to make those decisions for herself, it is legally assigned. The hospital does not have any longer, legally speaking, the ultimate say over those decisions. So make sure you get that done. There's so much more that you need to do if you haven't done it already. Ozarks Elder Law can spell it all out. You're like, what do I got to pay to find out what I need to do? That is an offering they give you. That is a courtesy they provide to you because they don't want the cost of knowledge to be an obstacle. So it costs you nothing. And then after they do a consultation and you go over things, they'll say, okay, so in order for us to get all the paperwork drawn up so you can sign it and it'll be legal, this is what it'll cost. And then you make the decision for yourself. OzarksElderLaw.com. I know I went a bit long on that, but I thought it was important and relevant information. Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books, coming up in just a few moments. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 83. Tonight, a chance for scattered showers in the early evening and then partly cloudy with a low around 66. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 84. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 85. And Springfield Livestock Marketing Center, you'll like this story, Nick. So the farrier came out yesterday.
Now, what is a farrier?
That is the person that looks at hoofs for your livestock.
I would have thought they'd be called a hoovier.
They're specifically for your horses, your donkeys, things like
Okay,
that. So
right.
the farrier came out yesterday evening to visit Mr. Pickles. For those of you who don't know, that is my donkey. I got him at Springfield Livestock. Now, when we got him, the previous owners told us that they had been working on training him to be ridden. Now, we were never brave enough to get on him to see how far they had gotten with that training, but our farrier, he used to do bronc riding, so he had absolutely no fear whatsoever. And I'm telling you, after he got his hoofs trimmed, he jumped on Mr. Pickles, and I'm telling you, that was the best entertainment I've ever seen in my entire life. And you know what we learned? We learned that Mr. Pickles, he is stubborn, but you can actually ride him.
Oh, so this was news to you. This was a new thing.
Oh, yeah, we never got on him. Heck no. We were not brave whatsoever, but just wanted to tell you that story.
All right, so now are you going to get Ryan up there, make him test drive Mr. Pickles?
So got on him, and then Ryan's like, yes, absolutely, I'm on board with this whole thing. So the two of them spent like half of the evening just riding Mr. Pickles around.
Together?
No.
Oh, I didn't. He was behind him with his arms wrapped around the farrier's waist.
Yeah,
wearing his overalls.
Divorce papers waiting for me at home. But no, they took turns riding him around the field. But just wanted to tell you that story. I'm even more happy now with my purchase from Springfield Livestock.
Always evolving and progressing.
Yes. Now, if you're in the market for cattle, or hey, maybe you too need a pet donkey, check out their website for upcoming sale dates, springfieldlivestock.com. And, if you want to check out the contact information for Springfield Livestock, or you want to see photos of Mr. Pickles, you can find all of that under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I'm Nick Reed. Thursday means it's Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Our author, Seth Barron, is on the editorial board of the New York Post and is a New York City-based reporter. His latest book, Weaponize the Left's Capture and Destruction of America's Sacred Institutions. I thank you for being with us here this morning. And, man, it just really seems so evident that they do. It is like attack and conquer, not just culture, but institutions, some of them not even necessarily governmental institutions, like sports and some other arenas that once upon a time seemed off limits for most people to the realm of politics. But nonetheless, I mean, it is just a conquer after conquer after conquer, it seems like, for the left. And I know you've really broken it down into 4 essential institutions. If you would talk to us a bit about what prompted you to write the book, and then just tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Well, what got me thinking about this was I was looking, I write a lot about politics in New York and nationally and culture, and I was looking around, and it seemed to me that there was a certain pattern repeating itself all over the place. The whole essence of America is that power is supposed to be vested in the individual. The individual is sovereign in our system. And then you've got the community, and power flows up. But what I saw around the country were essentially these leftist elements, elite kind of experts, as it were, being frustrated by the fact that power, it was difficult to, like it. And so the 4 areas that I look at in my book are education, policing, the border, like citizenship and the border, and then housing. And I think you see a very similar pattern emerging in all of these areas. And that's sort of what I trace out in the book, and I explain it and bring it all together so people can understand exactly what we're up against.
I think most people are aware of the education component here and the left weaponizing that institution and essentially taking it over. And I guess I've actually thought about this, how if that were even possible to be unavoidable, and understanding the reasons behind the concept of having guaranteed public education in terms of the ideals and motivations of the founders. But here you are giving young people, or what it's evolved into, in their very formative years, the vast majority of their upbringing in government institutions, and it almost seems as if it's inevitable that it would end up the way that it did.
Well, that's an interesting point, and I've wondered about that. I mean, part of the centralization of it all has to do with the teachers' unions, and that's what I talk a lot about. Essentially, the teachers' unions were allowed to bargain for to have collective bargaining rights starting in the 50s. That's basically one of the worst things that ever happened in America, giving the public sector unions the collective bargaining rights. So what that's meant is that teachers are essentially forming their contracts, like arguing with the people that they wind up electing, because they can take the money from their raises, pour it into the political system, and then exercise incredible control over how politics works on the local level and on the national level. So essentially, we're feeding the animal that eats us. It's funny, Randi Weingarten, she's the head of the AFT. Yeah. She wrote a book last year called Why Fascists Fear Teachers. Now, this is a really terrible book, but she lists 4 things that she says that teachers provide and that why fascists hate them. 1 is educating kids. 2 is providing opportunity. 3 is community. And her 4th is teachers unions offer an anchor for a labor movement for working people, and sort of are a model for how labor should be constructed. So she's essentially saying schools exist in order to give teachers unions an excuse for doing what they do. It's a complete inversion of what most people think schools are for, which is, that to serve the children. No, the children serve the teachers in this model. So I think that's been a major part of the problem.
You mentioned 3 of the other pillars, and they're obviously very important: citizenship and policing. And I think to a large degree, people recognize the way that it has been so politicized. But housing, I think, is one that the average person may not realize is one of the 4 essential institutions that the left has infiltrated and are really working at using for their own purposes. Explain the significance of that, if you would.
Absolutely. Housing is really a fascinating question, and how this works. What we've seen around the country is a resistance to the idea of the home voter. This is a term that they've come up with to describe how local politics essentially revolves around people who own their home and whose main interest, frankly, is keeping their home value and their neighborhoods, a certain way. That's essentially how American communities have always worked, that the localities get to define what their communities look like. So you want to have a certain type of zoning. You want to have certain kinds of housing and not have certain kinds of housing. Single family housing, for instance. This has come under tremendous attack all around the country. And the idea has been that the left seeks to lift the power to zone from localities to the state level or even higher. Because as long as localities control things, then it makes it difficult to impose massive social engineering, which is what the left has been seeking to do. This was partially under Obama, this idea of regionalizing cities and the suburbs, bringing the suburbs into the control of the cities, essentially, to ease the process of essentially distributing the burden of caring for the dependent class, as it were. It drives them crazy that they can't, by decree, order suburbs to have affordable housing. And by affordable, what I mean is subsidized housing, because that's what it ultimately is.
When the October 7th attacks occurred, a lot of people, we heard them very vocally express dismay at where did all of this sentiment come from? It seemed like every college campus had this built-in grouping of young people that were suddenly all for the Palestinian state, and it was very difficult for people to. Well, I mean, that's always been somewhat of an issue, but I mean, it was just this overwhelming tidal wave, it seemed like. And you heard it so often, like, where did this come from? How did this happen? And you talk a bit about why issues like Palestine have become central concerns of the local domestic politics.
Yes, it's kind of perverse, and it was a big surprise to me when it happened, even though I'd been sort of paying attention to it for a while and knew something about the history. In my book, I talk a lot about Angela Davis, the radical communist professor, former terrorist. She basically is the one who propounded the idea or translated the idea from Marxist political theory into American sociology that the police, she didn't invent the idea, but she's a main channel, that the police function in America like a colonial police force, or like an occupying police force, like in Algeria, say, or in Vietnam, that the police in America operate as though they were a colonial power, helping to extract wealth from the inner cities and keep people of color oppressed. And so the idea is that what's going on in American cities and American race politics is a precise magnification or precise image of what's happening globally. So this is the idea is that you can't separate. There's this old saying, and I talk about this in my book: think globally, act locally. And there's a certain kind of charm to that. It makes a little bit of sense. But what it's really saying is, don't use your own sense of the world to determine how to live and how society should be structured. No. Blind yourself. We have people over here, experts, who've already worked out the global solution. So just take their word for it and thus act on that. So that's kind of the idea. Yes, well, because the whole global system is so interlinked, that's why we need to defund the police, these jumps. So, yes, Palestine kind of fits into that. It's Palestine, Israel takes over Palestine the same way that white people dominate the cities and dominate black people. So it all makes sense. And, if you buy this kind of twisted narrative that, we've already gone through the George Floyd period. Everyone's used to the idea of white supremacy. It's like, oh, here's white supremacy on the global scale. The white Jewish Israelis are hurting the brown people. So it's an obvious kind of parallel. So I think that's a lot of it, because, and this goes back to education, and especially the colleges, they've been promoting this vision of the world as, oppressed versus oppressor, and it's all been racialized. So that's essentially, I think, where it comes from. There's been a steady brainwashing of the American youth to, just see, I mean, it sounds kind of simplistic, but basically just to see the world in black and white in this oppressor-oppressed relations. And so as soon as everything falls into place, then it's easy to compel them to act as you want them to.
We're talking with our author of the week, Seth Barron, the book, Weaponize the Left's Capture and Destruction of America's Sacred Institutions. Yeah, I had mentioned at the beginning of this conversation about the cultural capture. And it's so, and I'll just throw this out there and get your thoughts. Interesting to me, the projection, if you will. The left, they like to portray people on the right, if you will, as being authoritarian. Yet, there's been a period of time in which different cultural pockets had their political leanings, for example. I think it's fair to say that the arts, at least during my growing up, they were always considered kind of lefty, but the right was like, okay, that's their thing. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. Same thing with, I grew up in the 90s, the Lilith Fair movement, they're kind of lefties, sure. but you didn't have people on the right that were trying to infiltrate and suddenly demand that they become conservative. But we've seen it with sports. You see it with country music. You see it with these other what have traditionally been more cultural, conservative pockets, and the left, they like move in and demand that it switches from conservative over to their way of thinking. And I just find that remarkable, given that they portray conservatives or the right as being the authoritarians.
Yes, no, exactly. There's an old saying that any organization or institution that isn't definitively conservative will become liberal, because it just, it opens the gates. Here's the thing, and I talk about this in my book, is that for the right, for conservatives, like, we have things to do. Our lives are, we have families, we have religion, we have our jobs. So politics kind of takes a back seat. It's like, oh, okay, well, we vote every couple of years. For the left, politics is religion, politics is family, politics is their job. Very often, their entire career has been in, like, either, they're all organizers or activists or staffers. So to them, politics is everything. And you can't have one square inch of the country be apolitical or be kind of, conservative oriented, because that, left alone, to the leftist mind, will infect everything. Leftists like to think of themselves as being very subtle thinkers and very tolerant. But if you notice, like, there's this, and I see this on, like, social media all the time. People like, if you do such and such, you are a bad person.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And this whole bad, I mean, this is the way a 5-year-old thinks.
I know, it's so nuanced, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And when you say, well, you're a bad person, well, I guess that must mean that I'm a good person. So I see the left operating in this sense, the sense of threat. So if anyone is not incorporated into their beast, this system they have, then they're dangerous. And that's why they hate homeschooling. They hate religious education. They hate, they hate, like, any kind of sports that isn't, so, you've got to get trans girls into girls' sports. Everything is open to their infiltration, or it's intolerable.
Well, and in addition to that, they cleverly give everyone a way to join the movement, if you will. So, for example, if you aren't LGBTQ plus, you get a guest pass as an ally, and that allows you to be part of the movement.
Sure. Or they come up with different titles like queer. Well, what is queer?
Yeah.
Like if you're gay, fine. You're bisexual, fine. But now you're queer. So that's a way to kind of opt in without actually having to, actually act out some new sexuality. Yeah, totally. An allyship. Absolutely. This is what you saw with the Black Lives Movement so much, or the Palestine thing. These people who just throw themselves into it in order to show that they're not like the
bad
stereotype of what they actually are.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Our author of the week, Seth Barron, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone, where you can pick up Weaponize the Left's Capture and Destruction of America's Sacred Institutions. For Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Springfield Talk 1041, and good day, everyone. Welcome to the show. Any of it you missed, we got the podcast section, ksgf.com, also the KSGF app. And you can watch the show in addition to listen to past episodes on YouTube. Springfield's Talk 1041 there. Traffic update. Oh, and tomorrow we have happy hour, Vineyard Market, 4 to 6.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 83. Tonight a chance for scattered showers in the early evening and then partly cloudy with a low around 66. For your Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 84, and taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a high near 85.
You see, Joe Biden made an appearance at one of Jill Biden's book tour stops.
Oh, I bet she just loves having him out there. Yes, I did.
So if you didn't see this, and there's audio, but it's not really, I don't know, not worth hearing. I could just tell you what he did. It sounded like it was wrapping up, and then he just comes shuffling out of the crowd. And maybe it is because of what we know about his dementia. Maybe it's just the way that he shuffles around, but he looked like he wasn't confused to the point that he didn't know where he was, but was too confused to realize this is just not, don't do that. You know, it was weird. And so he starts shuffling up there. And of course, because Democrats are idiots, they applaud him like he's the greatest thing ever. Which is such a weird thing, because on one hand, seemingly Democrats were very angry that he essentially sabotaged the election. He was responsible for Donald Trump, the dictator, getting back in charge again because, he masterfully hid his dementia. and, there was all that anger, but then they act as if when they see him, he's some sort of amazing godlike figure. It's such a weird thing. And I guess it's the cult mindset. And if, it's just, you can't really necessarily understand it. You just recognize it. And so he goes up to the stage and he's like, I have a question. And she's, yeah. And he's like, who do you love most in the world? And it's like, what? And so the only thing weirder than that, did you hear her answer?
Yes.
She said Whoopi. I'm guessing she's talking about Whoopi Goldberg?
Yes.
Is that,
I think that's who she was with doing
the
Q&A.
Okay.
Yeah, the Q&A.
But it's not like this is your husband. And not that you have to give a default answer, but it's obvious the answer he was looking for, right? And you don't, it's just, they're weird. Everything about the way that they, I don't know, when they kind of talk about, of course, the Obamas also, when she is always dogging on him and he talked about how their marriage almost broke up because of Trump, and other Democrats have said that too, which just shows you how deranged they are. And the whole Jill Biden deal where she claims that she thought he had a stroke, and then he gets off stage and is like, I effed up, and instead of comforting him, she's like, yeah, you did. This isn't some advisor that's there to give him the cold, hard truth, but it's his wife who's supposed to love him, and it doesn't mean you have to BS the guy, but I try to think what would my wife would say, something along the lines of, it's going to be okay. Or, it's probably not as bad as you think. Just something to try to make me feel better. She apparently had absolutely no compulsion whatsoever. There's nothing instinctual about her, according to her, in that exchange that she thought of course, I think she thought her meal train was disintegrating. She watched it, just her lifestyle. Joe Biden, their entire revenue stream came from him selling access, and she probably was pretty angry at him because that is the purpose he serves for her and served for Hunter Biden and all of the rest of the family, his brother. It was to get out there and sell access so that they could have a revenue stream, and so the fact that she claims when he came off stage and recognized and was, I'm sure, humiliated, I effed up, and she just was like, yeah, you did. I guess it came from a genuine place. It's just sad that is her genuine place in that relationship, that he's an ATM. And so here, maybe it's a passive aggressive thing. And so Joe Biden goes to see her at this book tour, and she's up there, and he comes up and he's like, "Who do you love most in the world?" And she's Whoopi. Does it? Because it's clear what he's looking for. He's wanting her to, whether it's just for a cute moment or whatever, or maybe he forgot what he was going to say as he was walking up there. But it just seems like sort of a bizarre thing to not be like, well, of course you know it's you.
Oh, 100%. Did you read the rest of their exchange
No.
after that?
No, I did not. I just saw that one clip.
So after she said whoopee, so he just kind of stared at her blankly, apparently.
He's like, is she wanting to make whoopee? Is that what she's saying?
So then finally Jill was like, I love you most, Joe. Was that it? Was that the answer you wanted?
Oh my gosh.
And so
she thought, I'm going to humiliate him.
So then they started playing the wrap-up music.
Yeah.
And then Joe started talking and he said, my book, which comes out in September, read it.
Oh, really?
And Jill says, and they say it was jokingly. I didn't hear this part of the audio, but she apparently said, do I have to remind him that this is my event?
I think there's some passive aggressiveness going on there.
Oh, 100%.
I get the feeling that she's angry at him for blowing the reelection.
Yes.
And we talked about this, the desperation and why his family would be so cruel as to push him as they were to run for reelection and to do all of this stuff. And it was all for money because, I mean, none of them make money in their own right. None of them. I mean, Hunter Biden, all his jobs were because of Joe Biden. His paintings were selling because of Joe Biden. It was all about buying access. Joe Biden's revenue stream came because she was married to him. What was it, 12 different bank accounts to family members? I mean, on one hand, you almost feel sorry for this guy because you wonder, is at some point, did he ever reflect on the fact that the only people, his own family only cared about him because he could provide them cash? That was his only value to them. You hear about oftentimes these people that are celebrities and I believe this to be the case, particularly if you've been a celebrity in your entire life. You didn't have anybody that was a friend with you prior to being someone that could provide them things that they otherwise would not get. And so it would be difficult, particularly if you're dating. I see why celebrities date other celebrities, because if you date someone who's not, you're wondering, are they just dating me because I'm a celebrity? They, even if they think that they're not. And even with other celebrities, if they're like a C-level celebrity, are they dating me because I'm an A-level and I'm going to, because your status offers them something that isn't like a real relationship thing. And I think there's some truth to that. You would never know. Or like if you're really, really, really rich and you meet new people and they know that you're rich, I would wonder, is this person hanging around me because they think I can offer them something, or is it because they really care about me as a person? And as a human, I think about Joe Biden, and here's this guy, and he's getting to that point in his life where I think a lot of people start reflecting and they look back on their life. And I saw a picture of my dad, and he was with two of his grandkids. And I was thinking about, so my stepmom homeschools a couple of them, and so they get to spend a lot of time around, a number of the grandkids, but right now those two in particular, and just how valuable it's going to be to those two girls in particular as they grow up, and they're always going to have those memories, and how great that is for them, at this age in life, to still be able to be surrounded by people who love you because you are a loved one, because it's nothing but that pure love. And I think a lot of times you get to a certain age and you really start to appreciate that stuff. You think about it, how sad if you're Joe Biden And you really have these moments of clarity about, and I don't mean just cognitively, but just life and the things that are really truly important, and how everyone who is supposed to love you because they are a husband, or I mean they're a wife or a brother or a son or whatever, they're just always, it's about cash. And you realize they're pushing you so hard to run for the presidency again and to continue to go on because they want that cash flow to continue. That's what it's all about. It's not like Trump. I saw Hunter Biden, I guess, recently posted about, Ivanka Trump's doing this and then, trying to make the point that Donald Trump is president and his kids are out there making all this money, yet me selling paintings was a problem. Well, Donald Trump's kids were independently successful prior to him ever running for president. These kids have their own lives. Donald Trump, the day that Donald Trump is no longer president or the day Donald Trump passes, that is not going to render his children just totally listless and not knowing what am I going to do now because my revenue source is dried up. His kids are all they've been raised to be independent individuals. And obviously, a lot of their interests cross paths. That's just natural because of the industries they're in and because they're family. But the Biden family, none of those people have independent careers. I mean, even his own brother, everything would tie back to some sort of relationship that Joe Biden had with someone. And I think that'd be a really sad thing to look around at the people who are supposed to know you and love you the most and realize that really their primary interest in you is the fact that you are their source of money. And I'm beginning to wonder if some of these acknowledgments of Jill Biden and the joking, while Joe Biden's out there utilizing her platform to like, hey, don't forget, I've got a book coming up, and she's, just sort of quote jokingly, doesn't he know this is my event? If there's not some passive aggressiveness going on because they're angry at him because he blew it. He blew another 4 years of being their ATM machine. It's really sad from a human standpoint. But then again, Joe Biden did demand, according to Hunter, 10% of what they were getting because of him. So, I guess he was getting in on the action as well. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Happy hour tomorrow, 4 to 6, Vineyard Market. Our awesome friends over there. Is Ryan going to be there?
Yes.
Okay.
He will be there. Is Morgan going to be there?
I don't know. I doubt it. She made the latter part of one of them. I think last time or the time before last, but just with her schedule, it makes it a little bit difficult. But maybe you never do know. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company. I love genuine people. Just, people that are in your corner and you know that they're in your corner. And that is really what you get with Josh and his team. When it comes to your roofing needs, they really don't mess around. They offer free roof inspections, discounts for our military and first responders on new roof installs, and they are going to be upfront and honest about the work that needs to be done. They won't use scare tactics on you, and they won't give you some 2-hour-long sales pitch on why you need to use them, and if you don't use them, your whole house is going to fall down around you. That's not who they are. That's not what they do. So if it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, reach out to Josh, schedule that free roof inspection. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Story MSN. Rahman cuts Pratt's lead to 37,300 in LA mayoral race. Rahman is the Democrat socialist that came in distant third as of what I think 60% vote counting. And as Democrats continue to count votes, amazingly enough, she keeps finding a disproportionate amount of votes, which, of course, if she beats Pratt, that means that in the general election, he will not be an option, and it will be the Democrat and Democrat socialists that are options for Los Angeles, which just means more of the same.
It's funny how that works.
I know it is.
So where's the total? What's the percentage right now that's been counted?
That I don't know.
Just a joke.
Yeah, I know it is. This is reporting that Rahman reduced his lead from 41,000 to 37,300 votes after the latest count, with daily updates scheduled until June 12th. So this is going to, again, third world countries don't have this problem. This is how badly Democrats run things. Late count. I like this notation. This drives me nuts, these media outlets. Why it matters. Like we have to break this down for you to make sure you get what you're supposed to get from this story. Once upon a time, journalists were like, hey, here's what happened. But now they're afraid you may not understand what they're getting at here, so they have to just straight up tell you, listen, here's what you're supposed to get from it. But so the why it matters, late counted ballots often lean progressive, potentially adding Rahman, though she must outperform Pratt by about 11% to advance. Well, of course, yes, this is why it happens. I like how they act as if this is just a organically normal occurrence, that, well, it just works out that way every single time. That we count and count and count after the vote is over, and then we find some votes over here. Oh, we found a bunch in the basement over there, somebody's trunk over there. And it always ends up leaning progressive. Yeah. It does, doesn't it? But in the world of Democrats, you're supposed to believe that that's just the way that it is. That's perfectly normal. Well, in Democrat-run areas, yes, unfortunately, it is.